Hello everyone. In this lesson I would like to uh, talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. I'm going to start off by sketching the graph of these two lines, and the first one has a y-intercept of 4, so let's go up here to 4 and put a dot, and then a slope of a third. So I can think of that slope as either a rise of 1 and a run of 3. Rise of 1, that's up 1, run of 3. Or I could go a rise of negative 1 and a run of negative 3, because negative 1 over negative 3 would also be 1/3. So there's the graph of this line. Let's go ahead and connect the dots there and make it the right color for us. Okay. And let's graph the other one as well. This one has a y-intercept of -6 down here, but it has the same slope. So I go rise of 1, run of 3, and you can see that because it has the same slope, that it's going to have the same steepness, and so those two lines are going to be parallel. And that's the main point we want to see, is that they are parallel, and parallel lines have slopes that are the same. Okay. So if I wanted to also sketch the graph of y equals -3x plus 1, we could do that on the same set of axes here. So this would have a y-intercept of 1 and a slope of -3. And I could think of that as either a rise of -3 over a run of 1, or a rise of +3 over a run of -1. Both of those are -3. So if I go from this point, a rise of -3, I guess that'd be down 3, right? And then a run of 1. Rise of -3, that's down 3, and a run of 1, that's to the right one. Or I could go a rise of +3 and a run of -1. Regardless, they all line up on the same line. So let's go ahead and graph that one. I'll do this one in red this time. And again, the point being is that these lines, when I graph them, you can see they are going to intersect in a right angle. And so this red line is perpendicular to these other two blue lines, and what we want to observe is the relationship of their slopes, that perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals. So notice that this slope is -3. If I were to take the reciprocal of that, that would be -1/3. And then if I took the opposite or put a negative in front of that, it'd give me 1/3, and that's the slope of this one. Another way of saying that is if you multiply the slope of lines that are perpendicular, this line's the slope is 1/3, the slope of this line that's perpendicular to it is -3, that will give you -1. That'll always be the case. Alright, so now we have a way of determining just from the slopes if lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, even if we don't graph them. So what I can do is I can go ahead and find the slope of this line, and remember that if I write it in slope-intercept form, then I can just look at the coefficient of x. So let's go ahead and solve this for y. I'd get -5y is equal to a -2x minus 3, and let's divide both sides by -5. So I'm going to get y is equal to 2/5 x, right? The -2x over the -5, the negatives cancel, I get 2/5 x plus 3/5. So in this case, I know the slope of this line is 2/5. Now for this one right here, I could do the same thing. Let's solve that one for y. 5y is a -2x plus 4, and then divide both sides by 5. So this is going to give me y equals a -2/5 x plus 4/5. Alright, so you can see that the slope of this line is -2/5, and the slope of this line is a +2/5. And you might be tempted to say, well, are those perpendicular? Well, they're not, are they? Because they're not, even though they're negatives and they're the same, they're not negative reciprocals. Okay, so since the slopes are neither the same nor negative reciprocals. Notice if I multiply these together, I'm not going to get -1, would I? I'd get -4/25. Nor are they negative reciprocals. The lines are neither parallel nor perpendicular. Okay? All right, one other little problem here. Here's a equation of a line that's written in standard form, and I'd like to find a line that has this y-intercept that's parallel to this line, and then in the second part find it that it's perpendicular to this line. So let's go ahead and first of all solve this for y. -6y would be -3x plus 4. So if I divide both sides by -6 and simplify, I see that y is going to equal -3 over -6. Well, that's the same as a half x. And then 4 over -6, that's the same as -2/3. So that means my slope here is a half. So down here, if I want a line that's going to be parallel to this line, I also want the slope to be a half. But if I want the line that's perpendicular, then I want the slope to be the negative reciprocal. So I want that to be a -2/1. So I flip it over and put a minus in front of it. In both cases, I want my y-intercept to be 4/5. So I have that my equation here, y equals 1/2 x plus 4/5. You can see that's going to be parallel to this line up here, and it's going to have the right y-intercept. And in this case, I'd get y equals -2x plus 4/5. So that has the slope that's going to make it perpendicular to it. It's the negative reciprocal, and that has the y-intercept. Okay,